Hello everyone, my name is Paul. Welcome back to the new news. I hope that everyone's having a fantastic day. I hope that everyone is having a wonderful Saturday, that you, your family, and your friends are safe. And if not, I hope that you find that safety and security in the very near future. There's been a bunch of stuff that's been ongoing throughout the world today. Obviously, a lot of stuff happening, in Ukraine, and we have stuff happening in the Middle East and in Iran, and there's even some news and talk about China today. So it's kind of interesting. We'll kind of get to that. But there's a lot of stuff obviously ongoing, but normally speaking, this stuff generally isn't good. The stuff that's kind of good really doesn't seem to make it into the light of the public eye, no matter how hard we try. And so, unfortunately, a lot of this is kind of depressing. It is kind of dark and kind of grim on an outlook at what our world looks like. But luckily, you guys can help, and you guys can help make this world a little bit of a better place and put some good back into it. So here at the New News, we strive to be the news that gives back. And the way that we're able to do that is through you guys as the community. So please, I implore you to check out the video description below, where you're going to find a ton of different organizational links, some of which we have newly added, some of which we're currently vetting, which were submitted by you guys as the community. And if you have more, please get in touch with a staff member here, and please let us know about an organization. Even better if it's one that we in an area we don't cover yet. We'd love to start the vetting process and get that added too. But 80% or more of all the proceeds that these organizations get are actually going to their programs, meaning they're going to actually helping people, not necessarily to those administration's costs, just salaries and paperwork. And with that, if you can't give a lot to these organizations, please give a little. But if you can't give anything at all, that's okay too. Because one of the biggest things you can do is help us grow this channel and grow the impact that it has. More people that come here and watch this, the more of an impact we will have on people's lives all over the world. And we're here to try and give back to the news stories that we talk about here every single day and the people affected by them. So please help us continue to be the news that gives back. And thank you very much for the support you've already given us. If you can, give us a like and subscribe if you like what the project is trying to do, and if you like our work here. And you can also join us on social media like Twitter, where you can follow and share our stuff and talk to us on there as well, and our Discord community, which is also linked down there in the description. So thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much for the support for those organizations, as that's what this is really about, and that's why we're 100% charity driven. We're never doing any kind of super chats or anything like that. Before we get into the news, I 100% implore you to ask questions as well. I have a little bit of background with some of the big topics ongoing, as there are a lot of conflicts ongoing. So my background, for those that may be new and watching this for the first time, is I served in the United States Marine Corps between 2016 and 2020. I was in 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, where I served as an O-352 anti-tank missileman. I did 2 tours to the Middle East. My first one, I spent 4.5 months in the country of Syria and about a month and a half in the country of Kuwait, where I was with the Crisis Response Force. My second tour, I did part of my time in the Baghdad Embassy complex, where I oversaw anti-armor operations as a Javelin team leader for the Crisis Response Company. And I also was served as the Javelin team leader with Crisis Response Company out of Kuwait. And I also went to Yemen and trained Saudi Arabian Marines that are headed, or I went to Saudi Arabia and trained Saudi Arabian Marines that were headed for Yemen. And so I'm a subject matter expert in anti-armor warfare and armored doctrine against near-peer threats, specifically including China and Russia. And I also am an expert, of course, in the, when I say anti-armor warfare, the Javelin system, as well as the TOW systems, or the BGM-71 systems that are employed, the TOW-2 and the Sabre. And then I'm also a fully cross-trained machine gunner. I'm partially cross-trained in radio operations, and I am an expert in convoy tactics and of course, basic infantry tactics as well. So please feel free to ask questions. I will answer them to the best of my ability. I'm also very well versed in a lot of other things. I have a lot of fascinations and interests with current events and historical events. So I'll try to answer things to the best of my ability, but I always implore you as the viewer to please do your own research. If something is, you find something of interest here that you would like to know more about, please do not believe everything you hear on the internet. And with that, we get directly into the news. And of course, we start off in Ukraine, where today marks 7 long months of war and attrition inside of the country of Ukraine. It is a war of attrition, meaning that both sides are trying to basically whittle down their opponent, and it has turned what can only be described as the eastern part of Ukraine into a meat grinder. The fact of the matter is that Russia is suffering from major manpower issues, and the fighting there has become very bitter and very intense and highly kinetic for both sides, taking massive amounts of of casualties throughout the duration of this war and equipment and material losses. It affects everybody, though, and as we take a look here, we get the child casualty update. Quote, since the beginning of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, 391 children have died and 773 children have been injured, and end quote. And that's coming from the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine. They are the leading entity there when it comes to war crimes and crimes against humanity, against the different atrocities that have been committed there, and when it comes to civilian casualties, they're the ones that are monitoring the entirety of that. We also get a statement coming from Elena Tolkachova, the head of the Azov Regiment Patronage Service, and she released a statement in regards to the status of the Azovstal defenders that were brought back to Ukraine. They were released from POW camps. So, quote, almost all 215 Ukrainian soldiers released from Russian captivity have an extreme degree of anorexia. They are exhausted, confused, and have a lot of hidden fractures and exacerbations of chronic illnesses of various degrees, meaning that they are quite in their physical state. And as we have seen throughout photos, and we talked about last night as well, these individuals are suffering quite extensively from either pre-underlying conditions that have not received any kind of treatment or mistreatment while in captivity, or lack of treatment from wounds and issues that they received during fighting when they are at the Azovstal. They're in Mariupol. I mean, we're talking about they are all extremely thin. That's when they're talking about anorexia. They are extremely thin. Basically, they are starving. They have been starving for some time now. And they are quite literally, you can see every single one of their bones in their body. They are skeletons with some skin on top of it. They are extremely exhausted, as many of them have undergone mistreatment or ill treatment, and they've also undergone lots of torture and other things, and harsh interrogation techniques on the part of the Russians. Many of them suffering blows to the head and generally are not in a good mental state, which has led to confusion. And hidden fractures and exacerbations of chronic illnesses and diseases is stuff that is going to come with being in unsanitary conditions. These individuals were held in filtration camps. Filtration camps are ostensibly, might as well be called concentration camps, where you receive systematic beatings, rape, torture, and extrajudicial or summary execution. You're also talking about individuals that have they're talking about places of being deprived of sleep, of food, water, and any kind of sanitation and medical assistance. That is the situation inside of any one of these Russian prisons or filtration camps, and that is pretty much, we are seeing the harsh results of that. Keep in mind, it's not just Ukrainian troops that are being held there, however. As we know with Bezymien and Mariupol, there are many, many civilians who are being held in these locations, some of which deported back to Russia and have since had no contact or physical traces as to where they have gone and have completely disappeared from the face of the earth, it would seem. Jump over to Kharkiv, where, unfortunately, Sri Lankans have described their abuses by the hands of the Russians. This is a group of Sri Lankans who were held captive by Russian forces in an agricultural factory in Ukraine. They said Saturday that they were beaten and abused for months before escaping on foot as the Russians withdrew from the Kharkiv region this month. Recounting their ordeal to reporters in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, one of the 7 Sri Lankans said he was shot in the foot, another had his toenail ripped off, and was slammed in the head with the butt of a rifle. Ukrainian officials described their treatment as torture. And if you want to get some more information regarding that, you can jump over to the Associated Press or the AP. They do have an article written on that. If you want to check out any of these points yourselves as well on our official website, it's also linked in the description. You can go through our entire category where you can look at every single one of these points, since we have started to archive our maps roughly about a month after we began doing this. So you can actually go through and click all these links yourselves. You don't have to pause and type all that very long name. You don't have to type in that very long URL in. Russian K-52 Alligator, which is an attack helicopter known for its speed and its tandem rotor design, was reportedly shot down by Ukrainian forces using a MANPAD, or a man-portable air defense system, while it was operating near the front lines here in the Kharkiv Oblast. And we do actually have a video of that shoot down for you guys. Take a look. This is coming from some drone footage, and you can see where it was where its impacts are there, and it begins to, and it's kind of flying in. You can see it coming in. There you go. Nice explosion there. This is why flying low is so important to pilots. Flying that nap the earth flight, you're doing any kind of this contour or kind of your standard operating heights, you leave yourself very open to becoming locked on by air defense systems and man pads, and it makes you a very easy target to shoot you down. You just do not, you as a metal object flying through the sky in unnatural ways do not blend in very well to the natural beautiful blue sky that is over Ukraine. And therefore, you stick out and silhouette yourself. It's not the only shoot downs we were seeing today. Over here, this is over by Makivka, which is here in the Malivka, sorry. Over in Malivka, which is in the Kharkiv Oblast. It's right there across the border from the Kharkiv Oblast. We actually have this one geolocated. So this is a Russian Su-34 fullback fighter bomber, which was received a hit from a Ukrainian manpad, knocking out one of its engines. Reportedly, it was unable to make it back to base, and they do apparently have the wreckage from that. Its wingman, an Su-25 Frogfoot, which is a ground attack aircraft, similar to that of purpose to the A-10 Thunderbolt II. That's the whole point of the Su-25 Frogfoot, though it is an older system. It was reportedly shot down at the same engagement, and we do have some footage of that as well. So this is the shoot down of the Su-25, reportedly. Take a look. And you can see where that explosion has happened. You can see that missile coming in, or that wasn't a missile, but that's actually his wingman. It's actually the flame coming out the back of his wingman. And here is the follow-on to that engagement. So that is the wingman. That's what I was just talking about. Those are the flames coming back. He is pushing his engine. He's pushing one of his engines to as much as it can. To the best that it can, because he's lacking one. He's got to fly on one engine. It was just partially damaged. And of course, they put a bunch of music to this, but you can see he's flying here. You can see he's got his afterburner on, trying to book it. You can see there's that smoke from his wingman there that we just saw. And he's trying to get away. It's like, nope, 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 nope. I'm out of here. Unfortunately, though, he didn't, or fortunately, depending on how you think it, or look at it, he did not return. His aircraft is now a smoldering ruin there in a field in Ukraine. So, several shootdowns today. Several aircraft shootdowns. These are not easy to replace things. These are very expensive. They are few in number. You have these. You have to. The pilots too. The losses of pilots is very drastic. You can take a look at history to see the impacts during aerial warfare. Just how bad the loss of well-trained pilots is. If you look at, for instance, the Pacific campaign during World War II, Japanese pilots at the beginning of the war were far superior in their experience after flying in missions in China and over Southeast Asia prior to that. And then Battle of Midway occurs. They take large losses with their air fleet. 2 of their carriers are knocked down and sunk, with most of the crews on board sinking with them. And then as you see progressively throughout the war, the ratio of pilots, a ratio of shoot downs for these experienced pilots are getting killed and dying off, while these inexperienced pilots coming in to replace them. You're seeing significantly increased aircraft losses on the part of Japan throughout the duration of the Pacific campaign. And you see this exacerbated where basic pilots with no experience then are turned into the kamikaze, or the divine wind, which ends up wreaking havoc, as they really only have one way to go, and they end up slamming into American ships, which doesn't require a whole lot of experience as a pilot to do so. They're not expected to fight; they're expected to sink ships in the Battle of Okinawa. So that's kind of what you end up seeing. It becomes desperation, and we're really seeing these pilots are the best ones that Russia's going to have. The beginning of the war, the pilots that have been shot down, killed, or captured, these are the best pilots Russia could field. And these guys are the most experienced. Anybody that comes after this is going to have worse systems, just like everything else. But they're going to have worse systems, and they're also going to be shot down. They're also not going to have the experience, so they're going to be shot down much more easily. And I think we're starting to see some of that as some of these more experienced pilots were flying those very low-level missions, and so far Russian pilots seem to be still skylining themselves up in the air as they're flying at relatively high altitudes. We also see tourniquets getting zip-tied to Russian troops. So tourniquets are usually kept in a very easily accessible way. You want them to be very easy to get to. You want them to easily be pulled out. You're not really going for the whole zip tying it to yourself kind of thing, because you can't just like pull it. That's the whole point of a tourniquet. You have roughly about a minute to get a tourniquet on you after you've had a gunshot wound or shrapnel wound to an extremity, meaning your legs or your arms, because you have arteries. You have the brachial artery, which runs through your arm, and then you also have the femoral artery, which runs through your leg. Everywhere else, you pretty much can't tourniquet very well. It's not going to do a whole lot for you. But these are easily accessible. The reason why tourniquets are such a big deal is because the majority of the time, these are the areas that are being hit. These are the areas that you're going to receive these wounds, and they're very deadly. You see as the history of tourniquets has progressed, you see decreasing casualty numbers, or the decreasing amount of deaths, because it's needless to lose it's something so simple. It's kind of pointless to lose your life to something so simple that can be easily cut off with a tourniquet. The blood flow can easily be cut off with a tourniquet, saves your life in the long run. You get to a higher echelon of care. You live a long and prosperous life, hopefully. Zip tying your tourniquets to your flak, while you may not lose your tourniquets, you will lose your life should you be hit, because you cannot get it off. You can't provide self-aid or buddy aid. And it just unnecessarily causes you to bleed out and die.
Коли росіяни побачили, що жгути носять на броніку, але трошки у них щось не пішло. Не помогло, коротше. Буває.
So he probably would have lived. But no. He zip-tied his tourniquet to himself. See how pointless that is? Absolutely pointless. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I was muted. I got a little carried away. So, this is a flak jacket. I don't have any hard plates in this. But the point of this is to be easily accessible. That's how you want your tourniquet. And so if I'm wearing this, if I am hit somewhere, that is a tourniquet. It's a Cat 2 tourniquet. It's pretty similar to the one that he has. And the whole point of this is to be easily accessible. Now, the way I do mine is I take rubber bands and I put them on this. And so the way this works is so that way if I am hit, right, either myself, if I am in the mentality to do so, or my buddy can run up and he sees the red tab, right here sees that red tab. It's folded. It's in a red tab. You'd also have one on your IFAC. And he can literally just pull this thing off of me and use my tourniquet. That is the point. So not doing that, zip tying it, like this guy has done, you can see he can't pull it off. So he can't use it. It's pointless. Having it like this will save your life. Zip tying it, this is a great place to put it. I kind of don't like it because it rests like this. And I like having the freedom of movement and being able to put something else here. Because this is my shooting shoulder. But if you're like a Ukrainian troop, this is a really great way because it's visible. Everyone can see where your tourniquet is. So everyone knows if you get hit where your tourniquet is. It's easily accessible. Everyone can see it. If you have one, if you have a pouch to put it in, leave the red tab out. Leaving that red tab out will end up so that way they can see where it's at. I carry 4 tourniquets. I carry 1 for each of my extremities. So that's how you should keep a tourniquet. You shouldn't keep it zip tied to you because it's useless if you do that. And so, with that out of the way, so that's how you maintain tourniquets on your flak, on your person, on your kit. There's many ways to do it. There is very few wrong answers. However, if the answer gets you killed eventually, it's a wrong answer. It's a medical device. It's supposed to save your life. However, when the Russian troops across Ukraine are starting to find out, it's kind of their own version of Vietnam. It really is. They've been drafted. They're being sent into a foreign land that they really don't care about. And the trees in the forest are speaking Ukrainian. Quite literally. Take a look. The trees are speaking Ukrainian. Why is the forest moving? Yeah. Can you imagine being the Russian patrol that ends up stumbling upon these guys? Hell no. Why is the forest talking? Ivan the forest is talking. Up here in Zaporizhia, 1 person was killed and 9 people were injured after a missile strike ended up hitting Zaporizhia. And quote, a Russian rocket hit a residential building in Zaporizhia. 1 person died, 9 people were injured. And that's coming from Anatoly Kretiev, who's the acting mayor of Zaporizhia. Zach Jeffers says, good time for some CCR right now. Yeah. Amazing time. I saw that as I was listening to I was actually listening to some CCR while researching. And one of the things that I was listening to was Run Through the Jungle by CCR. So, very fitting. We see more successful strikes here. Quote, the armed forces of Ukraine made 20 strikes against Russian troops. An Mi-8 helicopter was destroyed in Mykolaiv region. An Su-25 aircraft was shot down in the Kherson region. Rocket and artillery units carried out about 290 fire missions, hit a pontoon crossing in Novokakhovka, and 2 clusters of Russian weapons. So that's coming from Operational Command South. However, we do know that the Russians are kind of hitting back, as we see villages completely leveled, and this is occurring all throughout the country, not just in the Kherson region. This happens to just be out of the Kherson Oblast, and throughout the Kherson Oblast and other parts of the country, the heavy fighting, entire villages, including this one, which we do not know the name of, as many of them we don't. They are extremely small, rural villages. I mean, they're just kind of there. They're not really huge. I mean, This is kind of a slightly larger one. But there's just small communities dotted all over the place in Ukraine. I'm trying to find one. Yeah, like this little farm. You can see like there was a village here at one point. And that's kind of the case for the entirety of the country. And the Russian forces heavily rely on artillery. That's the way that they operate. And these guys have just leveled entire cities. Take a look. And these entire villages are just they didn't, you know, they anyone barely knew their name to begin with. Now no one ever will.
Херсонские живописные места. Ага. Да, Миша у нас был этот оператор, блядь, документалист. Все снимал, постоянно скидывал. Каждый день что-то скидывал. Голова?
Да, была отсекла, блядь, сейчас уже издевалась.
А может прилетело рядом что-то еще?
Потом?
Да.
Мне кажется, не было там такого. Блядь, не зробили, блядь, фотки, блядь, я вже заїбався. У мене вже, блядь, мокра майка, блядь. Да? Пиздец, нахуй. Села, блядь, нема, нахуй. О, все, блядь.
So as you can see, I mean, this is a 2-minute long video. The fact is that this is an utter and complete destruction of Ukraine. The point of this is the complete and utter destruction of the country of Ukraine. Entire villages leveled. This is what we talk about, a scorched earth policy is what this is described as. A scorched earth policy. And that means that everything in your path is going to burn to the ground. And that is what we see throughout the entirety of Ukraine. And we see it village after village, city after city. Whether they be large, such as the areas such as Mariupol, or you're talking about Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, or you're talking about the small, almost nameless villages that dot the landscape in some of these more rural areas of the country. It has everything inside the country of Ukraine, but don't worry, there's other stuff outside of the country of Ukraine too. And we start off in Russia, where we move over here into the Rostov-on-Don region, which is where we're starting to see quite a few vehicles moving in. In fact, over the last about 48 hours, we've seen quite a few different videos of logistics ongoing within Russia, of trainload after trainload after trainload of military equipment being brought through the country and into the areas of Ukraine. Over here in Rostov-on-Don, you can see just the proximity to it. This is near kind of the Donetsk Oblast over by Mariupol. And we can see here the logistical vehicles that are being brought in here, some of which are of much older. They are much older in their design, such as that. But they're pulling everything they physically can into this conflict. Take a look. It's just all of these, or most of these, are much older logistical vehicles that should no longer be in service, but they are regardless, because of a lack of vehicles. Also, these cheap Chinese tires are still popping. I'm trying to find it. There it is. Hasn't even gotten to country yet, and it already needs some tire changes. Thing sat on a rail car, and it's already got flat tires. They haven't even gotten to the war zone yet. And they already have flat tires. Same thing over here. This is in Strelitmak, which is in the Republic of Bashkortostan in Russia. And we see that Russia continues to send large amounts of equipment, and these are mostly armored vehicles and artillery guns, which we see moving here. These are MTLBs. They appear to be a variant of them, probably command and control variant. And we also see a lot of MISTA artillery guns, so take a look.
Танки, да.
So yeah, we're seeing quite an amount of military equipment on the move inside of Russia and moving across the country headed towards the front lines there in Ukraine. And we suspect this is because not only are they replacing their losses now, but they're also expecting with these 300,000 new Russian troops that they will be going to be able to make some kind of a difference. Mr. Artillery, how's he been? Nice play on words there. But here's the thing. Russian troops have started to get their equipment. They're being issued their stuff across Russia. And they're issued everything from uniforms to weapons to their loadout, their vests and everything else. And as many have suspected prior to this, evidence of poor management of their equipment stockpiles has begun to rear its ugly head once again. Take a look at this. Listen, I ran an armory in my unit for 2.5 years. Okay? I ran the armory for my company. 2.5 years is my B billet. This makes me cry. This is so abhorrent. So abhorrent. This is, oh my god.
Это пацанам-танкистам такую шляпу выдали.
А сказали, у вас танки нахуй есть.
Да, нахуй вам калаши, у вас танки. Хули вы страдаете хуйней, блядь.
I just want to point out this condition of this rifle is so bad that the wood has rust on it. The wood on the weapon, which is not made of metal, has rust all over it. How? This rifle, which was stored with the magazine, by the way, it would appear this was stored with the magazine inserted, by the way. This is, look at the rear sight aperture. It's rusted shut. Everyone likes the comparison. Nuclear, I got the best one, Private Conscriptovich. This, everyone talks about, and because a lot of people go back and forth, AR versus AK, right? The AR style rifles, Armalite rifle, right? Versus the AK system. Are you for like the NATO weaponry, or are you for the AK? And everyone does all these stupid torture tests where they submerge a rifle in like a pit of mud and water and then try and shoot through it. Like, why? The point is to not drop a weapon system in a bunch of mud and water. Like, you're just an idiot if you're doing that anyway. It's pointless. But everyone talks about these torture tests and, the AK does so good in a torture test. This is an AK torture test, if I've ever seen one. Please, Private Conscriptovich, please shoot this rifle one time. I want to watch it blow up in your face. And you can't even see down the barrel of this rifle. Right? You can't see down we don't see down the barrel of this rifle. But I'm guaranteeing if the outside is this rusted, such as the over here, this is the gas port all here on the system for the long stroke piston. If this is the case of the rifle itself on the exterior, you can see where it's rusting on the inside there too, coming off the muzzle. So this has to tell me that there's got to be corrosion on the inside of the weapon system. The cleaning rod for the rifle is rusted to the rifle. These things are issued with the cleaning rods for them. It's issued with the cleaning gear built into the rifle, and it still looks like this. It's not a one-off incident. No. Nope. Here's even more. More AKs being given to these guys. Take a look.
Ой, ебать его. Я говорю, ты пизда на него вообще развалилась.
Ну, я ничего комментировать не буду, ребята. Но могу сказать лишь одно, что вроде как это дано, что вспомнили руки. Ну и то я в ахуе.
So, I go back to yesterday, and someone says, what are my thoughts on the 300,000 troops that are going into, they're being conscripted? Will it make a difference? Hell no. It's not going. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Because they can't fire their rifles. Erebus asks, sorry, my ignorance. Are the magazines supposed to be stored separately? Yes, magazines are supposed to be stored separately. You'll hear me throw out some things every once in a while that you may not fully understand. One of the things I will say is it has the SL3 with it. So SL3 to equipment. SL3 is a descriptive term in the military for other stuff that goes with a main piece of gear. So for the AK here, for instance, or a rifle, the SL3 for the AK would be getting the magazines for your rifle, having 6 magazines, like I do. This is SL3. Having the sling. The sling is SL3. The magazines are SL3. Having, the cleaning rods and the bore brushes, that's SL3. That's SL3 to the rifle. The rifle is one item, and then the SL3 is everything that goes with that item as like little detail stuff. So that's kind of how that works. The SL3 to a system is usually stored separately from the system itself. You usually issue the SL3 to an individual in a set. So I would issue everyone a 6 cleaning rods, the cleaning T-rod. I would issue them a bore brush, the barrel brush, or chamber brush and barrel brush, and I would issue them and we'd issue them, the sling, a Vickers sling, and all of that. That's how that works. And then I would issue them a weapon, and I would maintain the weapon in an armory. So that's how that works. It's how it's supposed to work, at least in the United States. These guys, I don't think, know how to do that. Leaves no hope for the Russian cause. They can't even give. If their rifles look like that, I can't imagine. Oh my god, I can't imagine what some of the other stuff they're issuing these guys. As we jump down here and into the Middle East, the death toll rose from as of today to 94 from the death toll of a migrant boat that sank off the coast of Syria. So And they are still recovering bodies off the coast. So that death toll is expected to rise once again. But this is off the coast of Tartus here in Syria. Up in Raqqa, we see that the six Islamic State militants were detained during a counterterrorism operation by the Syrian Democratic Forces operating in the city of Raqqa. During the search of their house, the security forces found weapons and IEDs. The jihadists distributed among the logistical cells to carry out terrorist attacks. It was also noted that the support of the Arab Kurdish forces was provided by an international coalition led by the United States. So, yes, and this is pretty common. The SDF do go out and conduct a lot of raids. Yes, Tally is supervising the stream. For those that are wondering what is going on with the cat, as I see a lot of cat-oriented things. The cat is supervising from her position here in the room of the stream, making sure that I speak what I need to speak. You know, what I need to say. Every world leader sucks. Bad at me. Tally, probably. Tally, definitely. I will attribute that quote. For those that don't know, Tally is our family pet. And Tally is our cat. One of two, and then we also have a small little dog, too. Herds of animals are currently dying off due to the ongoing droughts in Iraq right now. The province of Dahikar in the south of the country, which is over by like Nazariya, over by Basra. Due to drought, buffalo are dying en masse, and buffaloes are bred throughout southern Iraq. It is kind of disturbing to take a look at, so we're not going to show it here, but you guys are more than welcome to take a look if you wish. Counter-protests and crackdowns are currently ongoing by Iranian authorities. Iranian counter-protesters gathered across the country on Friday to show support for the Iranian authorities. They chanted against America and Israel, reflecting the official line that blames the latest unrest of the hostile foreign countries. Of course, we can get this from the AP News. Protesters are seizing the streets in Tehran, burning cars and beating the police. The police are continuing to use lethal force to stop protesters. Some women were seen being towed away by law enforcement officials.
مامان حالم خوبه مامان حالم خوبه ماما حالم خوبه مامان حالم خوبه تلفنم روشنه خداحافظ وای 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 شاله ببین.
So I can see there, Iranian security forces using live ammunition. So the I see that Nuclear asked, so what are the protests for? In Iran, a woman by the name of Mahsa Amini was actually beaten to death for wearing improper hijab, which is mandatory in the country of Iran. Iran is a theocracy, and so therefore they are led by a religious leader known as the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah is the supreme leader of Iran, and they are above both the president and the prime minister, and they are a supreme leader that oversees the country and implements Sharia law, which is the Islamic interpretation of law inside the country according to the Quran and I believe the Hadith. And so they have their interpretation of Sharia law based off of Shia principles. And one of the things that is implemented there is hijab, mandatory hijab for women, which is a face covering or a head covering. And proper hijab is kind of subjective, but Iran is very brutal in its policies and ensuring that they are enforced. She was beaten to death for improper hijab while under Iranian authorities, under their basically they are holding her. They beat her to death. And now everyone is taken to the streets. And you have to understand that for some time now, Iran's been under sanctions because of policies that their government is implementing. They have seen a lot of strife. There's been a lot of issues with the outside world. There's a very lack of trade. There's not a lot of income. Quality of life inside of the country of Iran is just not very good. And keep in mind, Iran, prior to 1979, which is the Iranian Revolution, was quite a democratic nation. In fact, it's done an almost complete 180 following the Islamic Revolution there in Iran in 1979. So it seems like it's a different world completely, but it used to be as such. And because of everything ongoing here, they are basically trying to overthrow the government now. The protests are calling for the dissolval of the current government. And they have taken, and the Iranian authorities have taken using live ammunition. The death toll is over 50 inside the country at this point. It's quite substantial, but the protests are ongoing regardless. So at this point, in Qom, officers were pelted with Molotov cocktails.
اینجا قوم است نیروگاه مامورا رو میزنن.
The police chief of Gilan province announced 739 arrests, 60 of whom were women, led by the police and Revolutionary Guard Corps. Since protests began, the government in Western Hamadan province said that 58 protesters had been arrested. 10 journalists were reportedly arrested. Iranian authorities shut down the internet, including access to WhatsApp and Instagram. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has deployed his satellite Starlink to Iran to enable internet access to Iranians. And New York Magazine contributor Yashar Ali reported at having received sources suggesting Iranian authorities mobilizing Hezbollah militants from Lebanon to help quell the protesters in the country. So, once again, he's asking for Hezbollah. Iran backs Hezbollah. Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, Hezbollah out of Lebanon. Once again, Iran has a lot of fingers and a lot of pieces of the pie across the Middle East, and that is where they're kind of drawing on a lot of their influence because they don't want to go into direct conflict. They remember the Iran-Iraq war, which occurred between Saddam Hussein's forces and the Iranian forces in the country of Iraq, which was very bloody. But they have fighters that they have backed and trained. They fought the coalition in Iraq during the 2000s. They are the main reason the insurgencies were as bad as they were supplying them with training and weapons and even some Iranian fighters. There were 70,000 Iranian fighters in my time in Syria, and that was just a short 4.5 months. They have Hezbollah in Lebanon. They have Kataib Hezbollah, which is the ones that fought that went and tried to take over the U.S. Embassy compound in 2020. That is Kataib Hezbollah. They're the ones with the big yellow flags with the big country of Iraq in it, and like dude's holding a rifle. So that's kind of what's going on there. Muqtada al-Sadr, out of Iraq, he's a Shia cleric. He's also backed by Iran. He's the one that tried to overthrow the Iraqi government about a month ago. So things just aren't very good, but they're calling, reportedly, according from this source, Yashar Ali, apparently they're calling on Hezbollah fighters from Lebanon to come back to Iran to help quell the unrest. There's also an explosion in Bushehr province in southern Iran. The explosion in the largest cement plant in the country last night ended up destroying the building in Kangan. The result of the explosion or the cause of it is unknown, but the opposition claims that the building was destroyed as a result of actions by the Iranian Republican Guard Corps, the IRGC, in order to disperse protesters. So, quite a lot ongoing there in Iran. We'll continue to keep updated on this ongoing situation. But it really is seeming like it's turning into a second Iranian revolution. In India, casualties are rising amid increased lightning during monsoon season. Hazardous weather has killed at least 36 people in northern India over the past 24 hours, including 12 who were struck by lightning, officials said as they warned of heavy downpours in the coming days. Officials reported that 39 people in Uttar Pradesh have died from lightning in the last 5 days. Coming from the India Meteorological Department. It is getting that time of year where we're going to start seeing a lot of heavy downpours throughout these areas. This is really the monsoon. In addition, the network is spreading information about the early resignation of Chinese President Xi Jinping from office, and that China is on the verge of a military coup. It noted that troops are being massively transferred to Beijing. Allegedly, a column of 80 kilometers in length has been reported. Once again, these are rumors at this point. There's even some rumors saying that Xi Jinping is on house arrest at this point. We do not know for sure. There is no confirmation on any of this, but there is quite a lot of activity and a lot of words kind of spreading around regarding what's ongoing in China, which is really causing some time for concern at this point as to what is happening inside of the country. It will be some time before any confirmations have been made or any news comes out of the country, but once they do, be sure that we will be following up with that ongoing situation. However, there's just not a lot to go on right now outside of rather unfounded kind of rumors at this point. Over in Japan, 2 have been killed after a typhoon hit central Japan. Typhoon lashed central Japan on Saturday with torrential rain and fierce winds, killing 2 and leaving tens of thousands of households without power. Typhoon Nanmadol is one of the biggest storms to hit Japan in years. Shizuoka City, southwest of the capital of Tokyo, was hit especially hard, seeing a record of 417 millimeters or 16.42 inches of precipitation since the rain started on Thursday. So this is just images coming out from when the typhoon ended up hitting. And so that is the situation there in Japan. As we jump back over here into, we do not have anything coming out of Africa or South America today, but up here in Nova Scotia, we see that a hurricane ended up hitting Nova Scotia today. It made landfall. Category 1 Hurricane Fiona, which is the same hurricane which ended up slamming into the Bahamas and into Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, ended up turning north up the eastern seaboard, and has now made official landfall in Nova Scotia. And right here, coming out of the channel Puerto de Bosques. Sorry, I'm not very good. Port au Bosques. Category 1 Hurricane Fiona has impacted Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Isle de Madeline, in southwestern Newfoundland. Is under the Port de Bosque, is under state of emergency as Fiona sweeps houses out to sea at this point. The storm center is over the Gulf of St. Lawrence and is heading towards the eastern Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador. Some coastal homes collapsed, some houses fell into the sea, some were washed away. Power outage was reported for more than 500,000 utility customers in the Atlantic Canada early Saturday afternoon, including more than 300,000 in Nova Scotia and nearly all of Prince Edward Island's 89,000 customers, according to poweroutage.com. And this is coming from CTV News Calgary, which we can see some of the photos they have from that. This is also getting reported on AP News, where we can see some of the photos ongoing here. Lots of power outages. And down trees and limbs. And this is poweroutage.com, which is tracking this situation. New Brunswick and Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island all here completely out of power. So that is the situation there with Hurricane Fiona hitting Nova Scotia tonight. Jump over here into Sri Lanka as we roll into some of the more interesting and uplifting news to kind of finish off our day today. A newly found jellyfish was discovered off by Wayamba University of Sri Lanka, and it shed light on an ignored marine species that rarely has been studied since 1905 and contributed to an increase in the possible number of jellyfish species found in Sri Lanka to about 150. Researchers described a new box jellyfish species named Caribdia Wayamba, also the first species of the genus described from this part of the Indian Ocean, and are working on a number of other species that are potentially new. Jellyfish fishery has potential in Sri Lanka, and the Department of Fisheries has made various attempts to popularize it before, but conservationists highlight the need for proper population and distribution study before introducing a new form of fishery. And you can get that, and we have more information there at mongabay.com, their news section. And over here, and coming out of Maryland, we see that NASA's DART mission is going to be making its impact on Monday. Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, is a NASA's space mission aimed at testing a method of planetary defense against near-Earth objects, or NEOs. The DART spacecraft will intentionally crash into asteroid Dimorphos at 7:14 p.m. Eastern Time, or 11:14 p.m. UTC, on Monday, September 26, 2022, to see if the kinetic force can change its orbit. Why? If this test is successful, the same technique could be used to deflect an Earth-threatening asteroid in the future, should one ever be discovered. And so that is kind of a little graphic that they have for this. But if you want to watch that live, it will be there. Live stream of to watch the crash is actually on YouTube. It will be live in 47 hours starting at 6 p.m. September 26th. And with that, that's actually all of the news across the globe today. Quite a bit of stuff ongoing in the world. So with that, I hope that you guys have enjoyed. I hope that you guys are enjoying the little bit earlier streams that we're doing on Saturdays to try and get you guys, those that are in areas that I understand that for a lot of the world, 10 p.m. is not a very good time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. It makes it very early in the morning for a lot of you. And so, I want you to make sure everyone can get some kind of good rest. And so, I hope that you guys are enjoying this kind of thing, so that way you guys can also participate in this in the streams and be live with us, like so many others. And with that, I hope that you guys have enjoyed, and if not enjoyed, maybe at least have found this that knowledgeable. Please be sure to check out the video description below and check out everything that we have down there. And we're constantly looking for new organizations to add to that list. Please help us be the news that gives back and tries to help people throughout the world, with the very news stories that we talk about. I mean, the stories we talk about here are affecting millions of people. For instance, there's 345 million people with food and water insecurities throughout the world, and we want to be able to help with that. And the only way we can do that is with your guys' support. So please be sure to check out the video description and check out all the organizations down there. If you can't give a lot to these organizations, give a little. If you can't give anything at all, that's okay too. I hope you can help us grow this thing, grow this project. If you like what we're trying to do here and you like having this source of news, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of you coming up here in the future too. So thank you for the support that you've given us already. Hopefully you can continue to do so, and thank you very much for the support you've given to the organizations, as that's really the most important thing here. So if you like what we're trying to do, please give us a like and subscribe. You can share us amongst your communities and friends and family. You can also follow and share our stuff on social media, as we're very active on Twitter. So thank you very much, and I hope that you guys will be back on Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central, for 48 hours of news and review. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. Please be safe. Please, I hope that you, your family, and your friends are safe. And if not, I hope that you find that safety and security in the very near future. In the meantime, we will hopefully see you back, and have a wonderful and restful Sunday, everybody. See ya.
Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. І стріляти волноваги, і чудно кличе, діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Нам не треба ні конфлікту, ні війни. Та ми готові всіх вас звать до сатани. Тисячі вже полягло, і все більше шлейфуємо. То для них нема нічого, крім труни. Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. І стріляти волноваги, і чудно кличе, діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Вызволять пришел, братишка, ну привет. На моей земле тебе один ответ. Нашим людям с кирпичом, даже танки и бочок. Вам не взять нас и за 100 000 лет. Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. І стріляти волноваги, і чудно кличе, діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО.
Mr. Putin, on behalf of all our guys, no one's scared of your nuclear device. You can take your number 11, shove it up your wrinkle bomb. Oh, we'll come and help you fit it in your skull.
Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. І стріляти волноваги, і чудно кличе, діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. І стріляти волноваги, і чудно кличе, діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. І стріляти волноваги, і чудно кличе, діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. І стріляти волноваги, і чудно кличе, діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Ідіть нахуй.